Now, recently I released a video looking at how to build the perfect $1,000 watch collection, and you guys seem to enjoy the format, so I wanted to continue it today looking at the best way to build a $2,000 watch collection by looking at 7 different personas and looking at different routes you could take in building that collection. But guys, before we get into this video, into the personas, I have a few things I just want to address. Take a couple minutes here just to talk about my new website that I've been working on for about 12 months and just go through that. If you don't care about this at all, you can skip ahead to the start of the video. I can leave a time code down below. But first off, when you go to my new website, there's a few things that you'll see. One is on the homepage, and with the blog, you'll see that there's now going to be written content released every single Monday going to your email inbox. So that will be starting on June 22nd. For the first email that will go out. If you fill out the form, that gives me a little more information about you, what brand you want to see more of, and that will help me really curate the content. But most of this content is gonna be buying guides and things of that sort. So if you want written content, it's gonna be totally different than the content that's released on this channel, more longer format. Definitely subscribe for that email newsletter. Number 2, we also have a new offering, a pretty expansive offering of new straps available. So this has been a long process. Have now partnered up. So the majority of those straps are gonna be made by our partners at Hadley Roma down in Tampa, Florida. They've been in business for 100 years. So I'm really proud of the offering there. So if you guys are in the market for some new watch straps, definitely check that out. And then for number 3 and 4, I'm also going to be offering watches as an authorized dealer. I have about 16 brands on there now. And I also am kind of positioning new releases as the main focus of the store with gray market channels where you can get discounts of watches out there on the market. I figured this is the best way of positioning the store and providing the most value, because in reality, you can get a watch anywhere. You can buy a watch anywhere online. There's plenty of places to do it. And that's kind of really how I'm positioning the store. And I really want to be able to build that out so it's the place to go for all new watch releases in the industry. And on the homepage, you'll see right front and center, there's a promise, an Our Promise section where I'm not going to be accepting any sponsorships from any single watch brand to be featured on the channel or featured in any of the written content. All the editorial pieces of the content that I'm creating, I want to have my own voice. I want to say what I want to say. Of course, there is some monetary interest in here with me selling watches and watch-related accessories, but I want to be able to produce content. I want to be able to travel, make those Kevin O'Leary videos, travel to, say, go to Vacheron and actually get a factory tour as an example. That stuff I want to continue to be able to do, and I want to be able to do it my own way with my own voice. But all in all, nothing's really going to change in terms of the content that you're going to be seeing on this channel. I really want to keep this separated. If you guys are in the market though, of course, head to the website. But otherwise, just gonna continue to make videos the way I've been making them, and that will be pretty much it. So if you are interested in written content though, definitely head over to the site, sign up for the newsletter, and let's just continue with this video. Okay, so to begin here with this video, I figured I want to go over the personas again, and there's one change at the end, but pretty much are all the same from the $1,000 watch collection video. And if you've not seen that video, I'll link to it down below. But the first persona we have here is the check off the boxes. So this is the type of collector who needs to have a watch for every single scenario, even if all those scenarios do not happen. Persona 2 is the one watch collection. This type of person tries their best to find the one watch that can meet all their needs and finds joy in the simplicity of reaching for the same watch every single day. Persona 3 we have is the hipster. This type of collector can't stand having anything mainstream, so we're gonna be looking at mostly micro brands here. Persona 4 here is the diver fanatic. So this is a type of collector that really is just fascinated with the world of dive watches and really just goes as those watches of making out their entire collection. And then Persona 5 is the perfect duo. This collector likes simplicity, but can never settle with just one watch. So they opt to go for a balance of a dress and a sports/everyday piece. Persona 6 is the formal collector. So this individual either loves dressing in formal attire or is required to wear it for work or their occupation. And they do value simplicity, yet will require at least 2 dress watches to match their many outfits. And then for the final persona here, this is the only change here, is the 3 watch collection. This collector likes having 3 perfect watches to cover all their bases, as 1 or 2 is just simply not enough, and they want to cover the dress, everyday, and sports watch categories. So first up, we have the check off the boxes type of collector. And for this type of collector, you're gonna need a watch for every single scenario. So first starting out and just kind of looking at this from a high level, we would need a dress watch, some type of complication watch, and then say a casual everyday watch, then a diver watch, and then some type of say like beater or just all around watch that they can have fun with and not have to worry about. So starting us off here, we have the dress watch. And for this, I wanted to go for something that was kind of the middle of the ground, maybe a little bit more casual and could kind of play around, because this person is looking for something that can work in a lot of different scenarios. So having a dress watch that could kind of walk that line into the casual realm was something that I was kind of thinking about. So for here, I went with the Tissot Visidate. And the Tissot Visidate is a watch that I owned in the past. I had the black dial version. I think for this collection, just looking at the other dials available with the other watches that I have lined up here, wanted to go for a white dial, but nice sizing on this, maybe a little bit tad large, but you're getting a Swiss-made movement inside of here. I think a very attractive looking piece and really plays off the vintage styling that I think just looks really good. I love that old school Tissot logo on this watch as well. Sapphire crystal, and for around $500-600, I think these are really solid watches for the money and do really walk that line again of the casual and dressy scenario. Okay, so for next up, we're looking at the complication. And I think a lot of people would naturally go into looking at a chronograph here, but instead I wanted to look at something else because mechanical chronographs, they kind of get very expensive. And when you're dealing with only $2,000 on the table, you're gonna have to think of other outside of the box ways. So what I was thinking was going for what I think is a pretty good value for money piece with the Glycine Combat 6 moon phase. So a moon phase, a mechanical moon phase, at this price range, around $300-400, I think is a great deal. Swiss-made movement. I think you're also getting some attractive looks here as well. A nice case size of 40 millimeters and a nice lug to lug. It's not very thick on the wrist, but I think all this factors in for this being a very intriguing piece, and it seems like they are very readily available at discounts and finding them at really good bargain deals. So I think this is really a no-brainer for looking for a complication watch at a really good budget. Now for a casual everyday style watch, I wanted to go for something that, yes, is a little bit more conventional, but I think it's just so damn good for the money, and that is the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. I like the mechanicals a little bit more. You could also go for the auto version here, but I've just always been drawn to the looks of this Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. I think it does walk the line a little bit better. These three watches that have been presented here, I think could really work in a lot of variety of situations out there. If there's something that's a little bit more formal, I think all of them could potentially dress to the occasion, especially the Visidate, of course. But these watches are just simply great. They're great looking watches. I probably would opt to go for, depending on what you want with the Visidate, either the black or the white, just to kind of flip the script on that, whatever you decide there, that's what I would do here. But all of them look fantastic. You have a nice movement inside of them, very capable sapphire crystal on here as well, and from a really reputable brand in Hamilton. So for around $500, really can't do much better. Okay, so now next up we have our diver, and for this I want to look at the Seiko Samurai SRPB 51. And I was kind of debating on what variant of the Seiko Samurai to choose here, but decided to go with something a little bit more just monochromatic in terms of its color profile. I think the black dial will allow it to work in a lot of different scenarios and be kind of that Swiss Army knife for those times where you need to maybe go out with something that needs to be able to take a little bit more of a beating. Case size is going to be a little bit larger on this, but if anybody that has actually tried one of these Samurais on, know they do definitely wear smaller than the case size might indicate. You're getting nice water resistance here and just kind of get everything that you expect from a Seiko dive watch. And this is really one of the more classic designs for under $500. All right, so then to round us out here, I wanted to go for a very affordable, say beater watch for lack of a better term, with the Casio Duro, but instead of going for the black dial, I want to go for the blue dial, which I think would nicely round out this collection here. And I decided to go with two kind of diver style watches because a lot of the other watches were a little bit more casual, had the same kind of looks, and I figured with upped water resistance for two of the watches, that would be a great way to get around here. With the Hamilton only at 50 meters water resistance, I think this is a good way of going around this and getting everything that we need to have covered. The blue dial will nicely contrast with the Seiko Samurai, so I think this is a nice duo here in terms of those watches that are ready to take a beating. And I think I know a lot of people, and I've always been impressed with these watches for around $50 to $60. Really can't go wrong with these pieces. And I think the blue dial looks pretty fantastic. Okay, so now for Persona 2, we have the one watch collection. And when I'm thinking of one watch to have for say around $2,000 or say between $1,000 and $2,000, I think Zen. Me personally, I wanted to include Zen in the last video, but just the price just kind of crept over $1,000 for a lot of their watches, so was not appropriate for that video, but very appropriate and actually saving money, having a little bit of room left over for the watches that I was gonna be looking at. You could look at the Zen 556, but for me personally, as somebody who has owned a Zen 104 and then has reviewed the Zen 556s, I think I'd go for the Zen 104. And why that is the case is, I think for one, you're getting a lot more options in terms of the dial variations. They have some really cool limited editions that they've done in the past with the green dials I think are really interesting. I love the blue sunburst kind of effect dials that look great. I had the white dial version, the black dial, of course you can't go wrong with, but 200 meters water resistance. I love the bezel as well. The timer bezel is just fantastic for timing different events. very useful on the fly, and it's just a very clean utilitarian design. I remember when I was going on a trip over to Wyoming, and it just felt so in place. Whether I was whitewater rafting, I was hiking, I was doing anything. This watch was so ready for every scenario, and also looked good when I went out and had some fun with people, maybe got some drinks and had some dinner. It looked good in all of those different scenarios, and it's just a great watch for the money. Even on a bracelet, $1,600, it's a good watch, and I think this is definitely one to consider for that one watch collection. You still got some money left over if you did want to maybe grab something and have some fun with. And yes, you're getting a watch that's 41 millimeters with its case diameter, but with its compact lug to lug for the size, I never felt that this watch was too big for me. And I have a 6¼ inch wrist, or just under 16 centimeters. So don't have the largest wrist out there. I just think this is a great everyday wear for someone that is out there looking for one watch, and you'll have some extra money left over if you have $2,000 in the bank. And then for two other options, because I don't think it'd be fun if I just chose one option for the one watch collection, two other choices. One is from another German brand with Nomos, with their Nomos Club. Really enjoy these watches. I think they're clean. I think from the alpha manual movement inside of here, I think it's one of the better looking and decorated movements for the price, say under $2,000. You have to pay a little bit more for the sapphire case back, so you're gonna have to start stretching that really close to $2,000, pretty much on the button if you're gonna buy it new. But you can find some out there for, of course, less than $2,000. But a great watch, 100 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, and just really clean looks from Nomos that I just, of course, love, and I've kind of, I think, echoed many times. And then the other watch is the Oris Big Crown Pointer Date. Been a big fan of these watches. Yes, you're not getting the full water resistance, but if you're, say, somebody that likes just the classical looks and you like Oris, I think this would be my third choice, but also a very good everyday option, because I think it can walk the scenarios of, say, being more casual as well as being more dressy. All right, so for persona number 3, we have the hipster. All right, the hipster. So for this, I wanted to look at two separate paths that you can go around. They're kind of just two watches from each different path that we're going here. So first, as kind of the everyday kind of watch that can take a beating, is the Manta Atlas. So this is gonna take out the majority of our budget, around $1,500 with it on a strap, about $1,700 of it on a bracelet. And yes, that is a lot for a micro brand, but I was just so incredibly impressed with what Manta had to offer. They're based in St. Louis, Missouri. The way that they are finishing their watches, I mean, the finishing on these pieces, you have to see one of these in person to really appreciate. I mean, this is stuff that I think really does rival that of like Tudor. I think it actually is better than that of Oris. It's perhaps better than that of Zinn. I mean, you're getting implied markers. There's nice, fun little accents as well with these watches in terms of the GMT hand in this watch. I thought was really interesting as well. If you don't have, say, the money to go for that, you can also go for the Triumph. So that's the non-GMT version, but I've done a whole review on the Atlas. I'll link to it down below. Had really strong feelings about this watch and was just really impressed. And I think once you see the video and the close-ups of this watch, you'll see why. For the second watch is another watch that I am familiar with. I've reviewed before, and from a brand that I think does a really good job at a lower end of the spectrum in terms of micro brands. That is Notice with their Retrospect. And I did a review last year of this watch, and I was impressed for around $400. I think you're getting a lot of watch there. It's fun. It's got an interesting, unique design, and I think that's all that really needs to be said. You have an NH35 movement inside of here, capable water resistance, and again, just really clean looks. And these guys are based out on the West Coast, and have just been really impressed with what they've been able to come out with. I think they have a nice design identity that's, of course, theirs, which I don't think a lot of micro brands can say. And for $400, I think it's a watch that you can have a lot of fun with. And then for the second option here for the micro brands, I want to look at Weiss watches, because I think they're doing some interesting things as well. And for this watch, I want to look at the standard issue field watch. So this is around $1,100 for these watches, 38.5 millimeters in terms of the case size, so I think very wearable. But Cameron Weiss and what he's been doing out there, I've kind of been keeping tabs on it, doing a lot of highly modified stuff out there, as well as really kind of working hard to try to develop his own in-house calibers. And then for the second watch here, I think just Halios in general would be a great place to look. The only problem with Halios is, and somebody described this, and I think this is actually probably a very proper way to look at it. Halios is like the Rolex of micro brands, and it seems to be that way because they just sell out of watches. They bring in a new one. Their Seaforth was amazing. I think those things, probably one of the best micro brand watches I've seen for around $700. Love those things, but they also have released some other interesting things like their Puck version. They've done a Seaforth GMT, but a really awesome brand to kind of keep track of and see what's coming out next. But they sell out quick, they sell out fast, but for somebody that's looking for, say, this hipster route, and they're kind of elusive with their releases and kind of what's coming next, I think that would be really attractive to somebody that meets this persona. Okay, so for number 4 here, we have the Diver Fanatic persona. And in this price range, I think we have some amazing watches at our disposal here to be able to feature in this price range for $2,000. So I wanted to just pick two from two brands that I think have a lot of history in connection to the history of diving, and that is Doxa and Zodiac. So first, looking at Doxa, a new release from the brand, they're sub 200. I love the unveiling of these watches with all of the different color variants. You have yellows, you have oranges, you have light blues, you have the whites and blacks. I want to get one at my hands on for a review, but I think they're very intriguing, and Doxa is a very solid dive watching manufacturer with great history. They come on both a strap as well as a beads of rice bracelet that you can choose from. So all of them are under $1,000, but I think the orange would just be the way to go when you're thinking of Doxa. You're getting an ETA movement, nice case size of 42 millimeters when you factor in the lug to lug. So I think this is gonna be very wearable, very similar to like an SKX out there in terms of these proportions. And I think it's a great choice for somebody looking for that dive watch. And then for the second option here in this category, Zodiac makes a lot of sense. Zodiac Seawolf, one of the most overlooked dive watches of all time, in my opinion, has great history going back to the 1950s as being one of the first dive watches, commercially available dive watches ever made. And I reviewed one of their models last year that I also did a giveaway for. Was one of my favorite reviews and giveaways that I did last year. And their Super Seawolf, I think, is a great option for around $1,000. Some of them start tailing into over $1,000. There are also watches that kind of sell out quite quickly, so the inventory kind of comes and goes depending on the model that they are releasing. But for around this price range, I think you can't go wrong. You're getting their STP movements in there, which I've actually had pretty good experience with. I know some people might not feel that way. They might want to prefer an ETA or a Solita movement inside of these watches, but I think really solid watches overall, and that would be a really killer diver duo for around $2,000. All right, so now for number 5 here, we have the perfect duo. So I want to have a nice dichotomy here with a dive watch or a more sports-oriented watch, as well with a dressy watch. And for the sports watch, I also have one. Because we're only dealing with 2 watches, I wanted to kind of cover the area of everyday a little bit as well. And I think we're gonna be looking at a watch that certainly gets overlooked quite a bit in this $1,000 price tier for, say, an everyday sports style watch that can cover every scenario, and that is the Longines Conquest. I'm not sure why these watches get overlooked as much as they do. It's probably a result of many of the heritage models from Longines getting more of the time of day from the brand, which in its defense, I mean, there's a lot of good in that collection, and I think there's a lot of reason behind that's where the spotlight usually goes. But these watches are so capable. You're getting an ETA-based movement in here that's modified by Longines. You're getting a 60-hour power reserve, 300 meters of water resistance, screw-down crown with crown guards. Also just looks the part. They have a 39 millimeter available as well as a 41 millimeter option available. A really amazing watch for around $1,000. And then for the second option on the list, we have the Stova Antia Classique. And these watches, I think for under $1,000 and Stova in general, they really kill it at this price range of being competitive and good value for money. And for those looking for a dress watch of this style, I know a lot of people, they like the minimalist style. They like that, say, Bauhaus inspired design. I think these are the watches to go for outside of Junghans for this price range if you want this kind of styling and very minimalist Germanic overall design point of view. And I think it's better to save up a little bit more for these than, say, a lot of the more affordable offerings, because I think you are getting something very substantially more for the money here. These can kind of fluctuate in price a little bit between, say, around $700 to $900, depending on the options that you go for in the Antia collection. But really interesting in terms of the thinness of these cases. That's going to be wearing very thin on the wrist. You're getting very nice proportions here, very clean dial design. You are starting to creep into a price range where you're almost getting into Nomos territory, which I think you probably should opt to save up for instead of going for a Stova. If you're going for this design, if we're talking about Flieger watches, I think for $1,000 you can't get better than Stova. But in this case, I think saving a little bit more would be better. But when we have $2,000 here, and I think this is, of course, a very capable watch, and Stova is a great manufacturer for what they are providing. All right, so now we're on number 6 with our personas, and this is going to be the formal collector. Now, this person is going to be looking for dress watches, so I wanted to pick something that was undoubtedly dressy and another one that can kind of walk the line in terms of maybe being a little bit more casual and being able to take more of a beating. But to first start out with the undoubtedly dressy watch, we have the Longines Conquest Heritage. So these watches are, I think this is really where Longines is at their best, for around that $1,000 to $2,000 price range, where they're releasing these amazing vintage inspired pieces that were part of their catalog in years prior. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Beautiful indices on this watch, 35 millimeter case, so a little bit smaller here in terms of the sizing. You're getting a hezolite crystal, which yes, some people might have some resistance with, but considering this is somebody that's going to value formal attire, I don't anticipating this watch going through the ringer here and getting knocked around like crazy. And that hezolite is just gonna look fantastic with those indices in person on the wrist. And then for the second watch here was the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80 Silicium. And I did a review of this watch. That review really did got a lot of views. I got around 300,000 views, and I think it's for good reason. This watch, I think, checks off the boxes for a lot of different people and what they're trying to do. This is a great, say, first watch for a young professional. I think it's the perfect watch for somebody like that. Or somebody that, say, has maybe a more formal attire and needs kind of the ability and versatility that comes with a watch like this with 100 meters of water resistance. You're getting an 80-hour power reserve. So say you're wearing this to the office maybe 2 times a week, or maybe you just wear it on the weekends. You could almost stretch going an entire week with this thing off the wrist, and it could really just sit on the dresser for quite a bit of time and not miss a beat. And I think overall the styling as well with the dial options, nice movement, nice style, very wearable case at 40 millimeters, not incredibly small, but also not overbearingly large. It is going to probably lean more to the large end, so it might case some people out. But I think overall a really, really awesome Swiss-made watch for around 700 bucks. So now for our final persona here, we have the Perfect Trio. And for this type of persona, I wanted to have a dress watch, I want a dive watch, and then I want a casual watch. Starting with the casual watch first, I want to look at Certina with their DS Action Day Date. So for around $600 to $700 for this watch new, I think you're getting a lot here. So 41 millimeter case is going to be a little bit on the larger end, so that might size some people out, but 48 millimeter lug to lug is manageable. Movement though, 80-hour power reserve, water resistance, 200 meters, and you're getting a sapphire crystal. I think this watch overall is gonna be suitable for a lot of people. It's a great everyday watch, and for around $600-700 bucks, really hard to beat for a Swiss-made watch. Now for our diver here, I think Christopher Ward is providing a lot of interesting value of this price range if we're trying to split up this $2,000 evenly. And for this, we're looking at the C60 Pro 600. So around $700 to $895 or so, you can get a new watch, 38 and also 42 millimeter option. Nice thickness of under 13 millimeters if you're going for the 38 millimeter option, as well as lug to lug of 45 millimeters. You're getting 600 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, Swiss-made movement, and I think a lot to say here for a diver of this price range. And then Christopher Ward has been doing a really good job as an independent and has elevated very quickly over the last several years. And then for the last watch, I want to look at a Seiko. There's a lot of Seikos you could choose for around, say, $400 to $600. You have the Seiko Sarbs, you have the Cocktail Times, which I am both strong proponents of, but you see them all the time. So I wanted to look at something different with the SRPD 39. So this watch might not be the greatest value for money from a spec point of view, but I think it has a beautiful dial and is something that is different. So I definitely would recommend going on Instagram, checking out some photos of this on the wrist, because it really will do this dial finish more justice. But a little bit larger on the case size here, probably will size again some people out, 41.7 millimeters, nice thickness, 11.7 millimeters, solid lug to lug of 48.5 millimeters. But really, I think the star of the show here is that dial and that finish. I think it's interesting. You have a date on this, which I think some people might like, some people might not like, but it's a nice different throw in here for someone that maybe doesn't want to go for the Sarb or for the Cocktail Times available. And if you are one of those people that want to go for that route, of course, that will never fail you in this price range. So guys, those are 7 different personas and 7 different routes that you could take when building a $2,000 watch collection. Of course, cannot cover every single type of scenario here in every single watch that might be applicable for this type of collection. So love to see comments down below about what watches would you buy with $2,000 in your bank account. Would you buy one? Would you buy more? What type of persona are you as well? Love to see that down below. Also, if you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. If you want me to continue this series, love to see support in the comments down below as well. Also, if you want to sign up for the newsletter as well as staying up to date with the written content, head over to the website, fill out the form on the website so you can stay up to date there to get written content and buying guides sent to you every single week. Also, definitely check out the straps and watches available. Also, if you want to stay up to date with the content, go and follow me on Instagram as well. I like to take nice photos of watches, or at least I like to think that they're nice photos of watches. You can follow me there to kind of stay up to date, and I like to respond to comments there on the photos as well. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.